Today I have Renee Reisch. Hello, Renee.
Hi, Brianna. Thank you so much for having me as a guest on your show. I'm really honored to be here and
Yes.
grateful.
Yes, I am so excited. Renee has cultivated and inspired individuals and teams for over a decade. You immediately feel her energy when she enters a room. And after over 25 years working in corporate America, she decided it was time to hang up the corporate ladder. She started her professional training and speaking as an instructor at WHW, which is Women Helping Women, a nonprofit organization where she donated her time helping the unemployed and underemployed find and keep their jobs. Renee has received numerous awards over the years for bringing her teams to the #1 position. Both her years and experience in the corporate world have taught her that in order to move the bar and increase profit, you must first invest in people. After suffering a devastating illness that took away her voice, a few years later, the loss of her best friend and then her father, Renee decided to follow their example to never give up. I love that so much. Now, that legacy is how Renee has chosen to live her life and help others, showing them that just when they feel that life is closing in on them, there is always a way out. Today, Renee is a four times #1 best-selling author, the founder of Finding Your Voice Network, and an executive leadership coach. She helps women who are tired of giving their power away, feeling the need to overwork themselves just to feel valued, and imbues them with the confidence they need to speak their authentic voice personally and professionally. What a great bio. I love it so much.
Thank you.
Yes. So tell me a little bit more about you, about who you are and what makes you Renee Reisch.
Thank you again, Brianna, for having me here.
Yes.
It's really about our journey. I've got this pillow that I found years ago, and I didn't need a throw pillow on my couch. It had throw pillows on it. But as I was walking, getting ready to go check out, at the register, it caught my attention. I looked up and I said, "Oh, what do I need this pillow for?" The picture of a bicycle, and it said "Joys in the Journey." And my best friend, who is one of my angels in heaven right now, along with my dad and many others who I feel have gone too soon, she had bought me a bike for my birthday, and
Oh,
it said "Joys in the Journey." And I had gotten one for her, and we used to ride our bikes together. And that was before this part of my journey had even begun. I got that pillow, and it really, today it speaks volumes to me, because the joy really is in the journey, and we don't always feel it's joyful at the time. I can speak to that because I know what we go through, and I say this so often, we also grow through, and
mm-hmm.
those growing pains are exactly that. They're painful, yet when we get to
Yeah.
the other side of them, we have that experience that we can serve others with. But more importantly, we can use it to serve ourselves. And that's not selfish. It's
Right.
selfless, because we need ourselves. So often we look outside ourselves for that validation. I know I did. I
Yeah.
look for it all the time. And something I know you and I spoke about last time we connected. It's from like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. And she was looking for a way to get back home to Kansas, right? She was thrust from this tornado into this land of Oz. She was looking to get to Oz, to get to the way back home. And along her journey, she came across the Scarecrow looking for a brain. She came across a Tin Man looking for a heart. She came across the Cowardly Lion looking for courage. And of course, she had her dog Toto, who was always by her side. When you think about each of these characters, Brianna, including Dorothy, each character had the power, had what they were looking for outside of themselves within. So think
Mm-hmm.
about the Scarecrow. He was the smartest one there. He always gave Dorothy suggestions, what to do. We should do this. He knew,
Right.
he knew. He was looking for a brain. Like, he was the smartest one looking for the brain. Then the next one was the Tin Man looking for a heart. She had to always oil him with the oiling can as they were going to Oz,
Yeah.
because he was so emotional. He kept crying. He had such a big heart. He was
Mm-hmm.
so empathetic and compassionate. He cried all the time. So he had the biggest heart. And then the Cowardly Lion. looking for courage. And if you remember and recall that story in the Wizard of Oz, I'll refresh your memory. For those who don't know that story, he leapt in front of the wicked witch of
Mhm.
the north, and he was there to protect Dorothy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the north or the west, but he was the wicked witch, and
Yeah.
he was there to protect them. Now, this is a cowardly lion looking for courage. He had the most courage of all. And then there was Dorothy. Glenda the Good Witch sort of click your heels 3 times and you can get back to Kansas. She didn't have to click her heels 3 times and say, I want to go home. I want to go. Home is where she was, her heart, wherever your heart
Hmm.
is, you are home. When you move, when people move around all the time, it's not the place. I used to live in New Jersey. I'm in California now. It's not the place that makes the home. It's where you feel most at home. And those are the people you surround yourselves with, not the 4 walls that surround you,
Right.
where you are in your heart.
And I think that's such a beautiful message because in that story and the way that you describe it, everything is within us. And at the end, when they go to the wizard, and then it's almost like he gives them quote unquote permission. And sometimes in life, we kind of need that person to say, hey, it's okay. Go ahead, walk up. And that's exactly the premise in your book, Finding Your Voice. When you are thinking about that inner voice, you need to have that power to say, it's okay, let's find it, because it literally says, unlock your chains and unleash your greatness. Like, talk a little bit about more about that story that inspired that book, because if you're listening, her book is so inspirational because she shares stories of what she went through, but then also takes that and says, okay, now think about your own journey, and you use those lessons to help others understand themselves. So tell us a little bit about your book and your inspiration behind it, and then the impact you hope it has on others.
Oh, great questions. And first of all, I want to say thank you for getting the book. I know you got
Yes.
it right next to you there. And yeah, you want to hold up yours? I'll get mine.
Yes, it just has so much value. It's just so great, and it's an easy read and gives you an opportunity to share your own story, and I love that it has journal prompts.
It
It's
does,
just
yes.
awesome.
You know what, Brandon, thank you so much. The reason I did that is because I wanted to be able to reach as many people as I could, because I know a lot of people were hurting, especially in the last few years with COVID and being isolated and feeling alone, and using their voice and how they're not, and they're being suppressed and repressed in so many
Right.
ways. And this was my way of really helping other people. And yes, it was cathartic in writing it, but how I can serve others. So to your point, what I did is after each chapter, they're really short chapters, I made those journal prompts because that was my way of taking somebody's hand and
Mhm.
walking them back home to themselves. Because it wasn't about me. It's like a chicken soup for the soul book, in as much as each chapter is its own story.
Right.
Yet at the end of the chapter, there is the prompt, where in your life do you feel A, B, and C has happened? What is the result? So something like
Mhm.
that would be in each chapter, after each chapter, so you can actually see that and look within. Because when you look inside, you can really extract the things that you need to do that inner work to get the
Mhm.
outer results.
Yeah. And I think it's important to, when you share a story, to then say, okay, now tell me about your experience. Because sometimes, you think about back when you were in school, you sit and get and you're learning, but it's like that moment that you then internalized it and then think, okay, what did I learn today? What did I learn from that experience? And how can I apply it to my own life? And it's just that extra step that's needed to really experience that transformation.
Absolutely. And you asked what started me on that journey. It was
Hmm.
really losing my own voice and being told I may never be able to speak again. That was when I was in my corporate job. I was taking care of everybody but me, and making sure everybody was happy but me. I thought I was happy. I didn't think I was
Hmm.
unhappy, but I was so busy doing things that I was never stopping to be me. I was looking for that outside validation to be number one, to be the best I could be. and get the accolades, but
Oh,
I know,
yes.
right? Oh,
Yeah, so many people
it's
in corporate, it's like you hear that story so often, like the ones that get out of corporate, they look back and say, "Oh, I was just nose to the grind, just constant
yes,
working, 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 got to be the
yes.
best." And it's interesting because I talked to somebody one time about how he was going through his final review at the end of the year and he thought it was just a great year. He was like, "I did so well this year." And his boss said, "Okay, that's great. You did, let's say it was a 30% increase. Okay, so your goal next year is 35." And he said, "It's never going to be good enough, is it? I
Mm,
literally busted my ass this year, did so well, was so proud, gained a lot of income for the company. It was fantastic. But then your only statement is, okay, that's great, but how can you do better?" And it's like, why does it always have to be step it up, step it up, step it up? Like, let me just sit here in this greatness for a moment.
yeah.
Let me experience that and be thankful that I did so well instead of just, okay, that's cool, but what can you do better?
To that point, yes, it is about growth. You always want to grow, especially in a company. You don't want to say, well, we're
Hmm.
going to give you the same goal. If you could do
Right.
this, then you could do that. But to your
Hmm.
point, you know, celebrate the wins.
Yes.
Celebrate the wins and be proud and let people know it's, showing gratitude. We're so grateful, we're thankful, appreciate people. One thing I always made sure I did was appreciate the people on my team because it wasn't about me. Had it not
Hmm.
been for them and all the coaching that we did together, that they acted upon things that were taught, that when we worked together, they executed. And because they executed what we did, the team did well, the store did well, the company did better. Everybody won. It was a win-win-win. It wasn't just
Hmm.
yay them, yay me, yay, it was everybody was a winner. And I would write stories about them. Little did I know that was before I wrote a book. I would write stories
Yeah.
about my people, my teams, and how proud I was of them and what they had accomplished. And I would post it on the company website because I wanted to like elevate them. I wanted to lift them up so they should know not just thank you, which was always nice, but what more
Hmm.
could I do for them? I always want to show people how much, how grateful I am for them
And
and how much I appreciate them. Because I think
yes.
that is something that doesn't happen too often or as often as it should. I will say that.
Oh,
Because
most
always people
definitely.
feel underappreciated, undervalued. And then they feel like they're not good enough because nothing is going to ever be good enough. And then what I did in corporate, I never felt good enough because if my
Hmm.
performance was never good enough, I equated that with me. So
Absolutely.
I internalized all of the you could do better, you could do better. And again, nose to the grindstone, I was digging my own grave until I got so sick. I had no more voice. And it wasn't laryngitis. It put me in the hospital into the ER twice. It was a virus that took away my ability to speak. So it took over my vocal cords. There were sores on my vocal cords, and the doctors couldn't help me. It wasn't Western medicine. It was being able to step out of life because I was so contagious. I was told I was no longer allowed to be with the public. So I was really locked away within the four walls and the confines of my own home and the misery of this physical experience I was having,
Mm.
which was less than ideal because I was in so much pain. It was like razor blade sharp. I couldn't swallow. It wasn't
Mm.
having tea and honey. And note to anybody who's got sores on the vocal cords, honey is like salt in a wound when you have sores on your
Oh,
vocal cords. So I took a tablespoon of honey, not even a teaspoon, thinking, oh my gosh, it'll be really soothing and coating my throat. It'll feel amazing. And I took a heap and I swallowed it and I turned bright red and I felt like I was going to shoot through the roof. It
oh.
was so painful.
And it was such a terrible, terrible experience to go through, and
Okay.
something that I think is such an important message to share with others because that's how you really open up your book. And I think that's a great segue into, that was probably one of the most significant turning points in your life, and that really changed everything for you. So I'd love for you to share that story about how you, in that struggle, found your own voice, which in turn inspired this book.
It did indeed. Thank you for that question, Brianna. It was getting quiet being taken out of life. And I wasn't spiritual at the time. So I really would love to come on here and say I did all this inner work and I journaled and I didn't do any of it. All I knew is I was in pain and I didn't know how to get out of it, and doctors couldn't help me. And that was like laying in my own muck for 4 months. And it was a very painful existence, and I didn't want to exist any longer. What I realized, it was after being released from that 25-year career, and it wasn't right away. It was actually like 8 months, 9 months later. And, a friend of the family said, you should write a book. And I knew she was actually serious. I'm like, who am I to write a book? I even wrote that in the book, like, who am I to write a book? Like, who's going to want to read anything about me or what I did? Who cares? I mean, and I sat with that for a while. Like I, was looking for steady income, and I said, I don't have time to write a book, and nobody's going to care anyway. And then
It's
I
all
said,
that self-worth coming back up. It's just like
right,
that
all
constant
of it,
narrative.
that narrative exactly came up. I said, wait a minute. It's not about you. It's not about you. Who can you help with your story? How many other voices have been quote unquote lost, not necessarily in physically losing their voice, although maybe it had happened, but mine was physically losing it, but it was the metaphoric loss of my voice in life that I really believe manifested in my health.
Absolutely.
The feelings of not good enough, the limiting beliefs, the low self-esteem, the looking for the outside validation for the inner self-worth. All of those things that I was seeking, that I had within, that I was looking for that validation. That my best friend who's watching over me, she used to get so angry with me, and she used to yell at me, and it was the love. She wasn't yelling at me like she was angry. She was angry and frustrated that I couldn't see it.
Right.
That I didn't see the value I had, that I needed. She goes, why do you need these awards? Why do you need these accolades? She said, I don't need them. Why do you? Because she believed in herself. She knew her own self-worth. She didn't care what other people thought. When I put everything on to what other people thought.
Yes.
That was going to make me feel good enough. That's not healthy in any way, because if you're always putting your own happiness, like the keys to your car, you're going to give those keys. You might let somebody borrow your keys, but you're not going to give them the keys for good to your car. You need that to get around. So why would you give the keys to your happiness to somebody else? And if they're happy, then you're happy. But if they're having a bad day, then you're having a bad day. Then how can you ever be good enough with where you are and how you are and who you are, if you're always putting that from an outside source to feel good?
It has to come from within.
Has to come from within.
Yes. And it's so crazy, because so often, especially with people who need those words of affirmations, it makes me think of the 4 agreements. And I've talked about this book before, that it's like, it says, quit taking it personal. And I think, oh, I take everything personal. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And he says, don't take anything personal, positive or negative. And that one was such a struggle for me to live by, because I thought, I need words of affirmation. And he says in the book, no, you don't. You need to believe that you are awesome, that you are a badass, that you are everything. You don't need someone else to tell you, so that when they tell you, it's not a surprise, because you say, yeah, I know. And that is such a hard lesson to learn. And so how do you overcome that? How did you grow into that person who kind of released those people pleasing mentalities or the need for validation and acceptance? How do you think you grew into that?
I think it's really through your own experiences, right? We filter everything we do through our own lens of experience. So, I was interviewing with somebody yesterday, and I said, what makes me different? Because there's so many coaches out there, and one of the things I do is coaching, especially for women executives and women in leadership. And what makes me different than somebody else is through my own experiences of knowing what it feels like. I'm going to get a drink of water here. to not have a voice physically, emotionally, mentally, to not feel that I was ever good enough. And it's a hard pill to swallow when you feel that way and you're in that dark place, that dark rabbit hole that we often tend to go down, especially as women.
Oh, most definitely.
I'm not going to say everybody, but I know a good portion. No matter what title you have, CEO, executive, wherever you are in your journey, it doesn't mean you figured it all out. And honestly, I haven't figured it all out. I'm on this place in my journey, and I know what I know from the experiences I had. It doesn't make me,
Yeah.
the best or the, brightest in any way, shape, or form of anything, but I am where I'm at due to my own experiences. And they've been some hard lessons within those experiences. And I can really serve from a better place now because of what I've been through physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to be able to serve from that place.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm coming from, because I walked in those shoes. I walked that path, that part of my journey, to be able to speak to it and understand with compassion and empathy, to know what these women are going through so we can grow through it together.
And I think thinking through the experiences that one has is exactly the reason to always share your story, because each of us, while we are incredibly diverse and have unique characteristics, there are still underlying things that are very similar to what other people experience as well. And I feel like that is such a great lesson to share our own story, because it helps others feel, oh, I'm not alone. Because so often I have heard other women say and myself say, no one else is dealing with this. No one else feels this way. Oh, yes, honey, they do. Absolutely, they do. And I love when someone else says something and I go, oh, I'm not crazy for thinking that way, especially like as a mom, having certain mom guilt or certain thoughts that go through my mind. And then you talk to another mom and they say, oh, yes, girl, I totally have those experiences. And I think that's awesome. So, what do you think is one of the most important lessons that you've learned in life? Or what do you think is something that you've learned along the way that you love to share with others? Besides the story of finding your voice, of course, but anything else that you really feel was an important lesson that you've learned?
To set healthy boundaries. I never did. I just, when you're in the people pleasing mode, you just want it, like, there's no boundary. You're just going to put your stuff aside and take care of somebody else because yours doesn't matter as much as theirs. But again, why are you not as important as somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, if your best friend or a close friend of yours came to you asking you for support, would you let them go without that support? Would you put them aside? You would take care of them for sure, but not in place of yourself. You would
Mm-hmm.
take care of your needs and then help them because you want to make sure you're taken care of. But
Mm-hmm.
unless whatever you were doing was not so important, that you would certainly be there for them.
Right.
So why can't we be there for ourselves? Be that resilient person. There's an exercise that I've done. It's like, set a chair in front of you and pretend your best friend is coming to you for advice. What advice would you give that person? But that's really you. So it's like your higher self talking to the person that's looking for the advice. You want to say, I don't know, go ask somebody else. It's your best friend. You're like,
Yeah.
you're not going to say, talk to me another time. I don't want to help you. They are coming to you because you're besties. So you want to be able to speak to them and you want to be able to give them the best advice you could. So what would you tell yourself if that was, your person asking for advice? It's you
Mm.
on the opposite side of the chair. And that's a powerful exercise.
It really is. And it's so funny that you say that because I was literally thinking of that experience because a coach recently had me do that. She said,
Ah,
how do you speak to, how would you speak to your best friend? And I also love the example of what would you say to your daughter? And it's so funny because we are so kind to other people and so mean to ourselves. And that's another thing they talk about in the Four Agreements. They say, we are so harsh on ourselves. Like, why are we so negative? Why do we have this image of perfection that we have to live up to. And I love that you mentioned your best friend because you talk about that in the book. And, she was a really influential person in your
Um,
life. And I want to hear a little bit about her story, about how you and her met and grew together and how she influenced you on such a deeper level.
she was and always will be amazing. Uh, she said to me, "Don't put me on a pedestal," because she felt I did.
Mm,
And it's because she had such belief in herself and didn't need any of the things I was looking for, that she saw. She was, why do you need this? And that's when I looked at her and I saw the way she lived her life. She didn't need any of the things that I was looking for because she had it within
mhm,
herself, the strength, the courage, the confidence. And she just went forth and she wasn't looking for any of those things that I wasn't. She was this amazing person in this physical world that I got to call my best friend.
mm,
And although she didn't have a large circle of friends, it was an inner circle that she was so supportive of, and they all supported her in return. And just to know that you're not alone, that you always have somebody by your side in your corner, the good, the
mhm,
bad, the ugly, the whatever. I mean, it was just somebody there. And that's how I am with my clients. That's how I
mhm.
am with my friends. When you are part of my world, there is no, like, time collapses. When you're there for someone, you're not there when it's convenient. If someone needs you in the middle of the night, again, not putting somebody else before yourself. So I don't want to speak
Right.
out of two sides of my mouth. And well, you just said this, now you're saying that. If someone's in dire need and it's the middle of the night and they need to reach out, if I can be there for them, I'm going to be there for them. I mean, this is,
Yes.
that's why they're a best friend. That's where it's an inner circle, because there is no time frame. Someone is in this, you know, panic, or they need something and they are in a state of duress, then you want to be there for them. And I really understand what that feels like, and having a best friend and having someone that's always there for you. It's like Toto in the Wizard of Oz with Dorothy.
Yeah.
She always had her dog by her side. Now I'm sure Toto's, a dog, but as far as communication, you have a best friend in this world, and to know that someone that doesn't judge you no matter what.
It,
It's like a judgment-free zone. And I created the voice blueprint. And I know you and I spoke about this. And that
yes.
takes my clients from vulnerability to empowerment. It's an acronym in the journey of finding their own voice and coming back home to themselves and being true to who they really are. Because we get so involved with what's going on. We're doing in that doing mode rather than the being mode, like I spoke about earlier. And coming back home to yourself and having someone there that can walk you through that process and extract things from you that you didn't even know were these
Mhm.
emotions that were stuffed down because you have to do this, have to do that, and they were never dealt with, yet they keep coming up, because we know energy and motion is emotion. And why did you
Right.
just snap at that person? Why did that just set you off? Like, I don't know. Well, there's a reason. Why are you having these, headaches or stomach aches, or what's going on? And there's your body trying to speak to you and tell you that it needs your attention. So we walk through that whole journey from vulnerability to empowerment in the process of finding your voice. And again, it doesn't mean that you lost it physically like I did. I believe I lost it with the physically and mentally and emotionally. There were all these reasons that I lost my voice, but it was that metaphor of life for never
Yes.
feeling enough, no matter what my title was. And I had a very big position in the corporate world, yet it didn't matter when you don't feel good enough in your own skin. I never did. So I was
Yeah.
always looking for and seeking that validation. Even when I got it, it was never enough because I never felt enough.
Mhm. And I love that you talk about how it's the metaphorical sense as well, because I recently heard an interview where it talked about how when you feel certain things in your body, it's because you are missing something in particular. And there's like some sort of map, I'm sure, that kind of lists out like if you're, having this, because for a while, I would lose my voice. Like every time I get sick, I lose my voice. And it was a significant amount of time the last time that I lost it. And I was talking with my coach and I said, I don't understand. I've lost it again. And she says, what are you not saying then?
Mm.
And I thought, oh, how did you know? You know, like I do have more to say. And it's just amazing because when you listen, your body is talking. It's saying something like listen up because it has something to say. You know, if you're constantly feeling stomach aches or if you're constantly feeling, the uncomfortableness in your body, what are you doing on the outside that you probably shouldn't be doing? Or what are you feeling nervous about? And I think it's so intriguing to really step into that. And is that, I really want you to talk about your business and what you do. You know, how did you get started? What is your business? And, what is it that you do that can impact others?
So as I was saying, I do coaching, so
Hmm.
corporate coaching, so for women in business, executives, and leadership, and it is stepping out of that uncomfortable comfort zone into your confidence. We might portray that smile on the outside, but what's going on the inside? The nose
Yes.
to the grindstone, the never feeling valued, no matter what you're doing, you never feel like it's enough. So I work with women in that realm, in that space. And then also I have the Finding Your Voice network. So that is something that I'm really proud of. It started out as a Facebook group, and it is a community there. It started
Hmm.
from the messenger group when I was launching my book in February 3rd of 2020. So we're coming up on almost 3 years.
Oh,
And
wow. That's
yeah,
incredible.
now there's almost 900 people, and there are over 900 people in there right now. And so I'm really grateful for that. And though I do workshops, I do coaching, as I said,
Hmm.
and it's something that I'm really proud to be able to bring the pain that I had in my life and turn it into my purpose in life, to give, to serve, to share, to elevate voices. So Finding Your Voice Network is a platform. We've got our VIPs in there that are doing incredible work in their own right. And it's just, we'll be having summits and just a lot of great things and courses for people to enroll in. And it's just incredible people that are in there. And I'm just excited about the whole journey of the Finding Your
Yeah.
Voice network. And the book, as I said, continues to thrive. It was a bestseller
Yeah.
again. A couple weeks ago, I was looking again. Amazon doesn't alert you, so it could be more often than that. But
Yeah.
I check it like you would check on a child. I'm like, I wonder how it's doing. And I'm
Right.
like, oh my God, it's a bestseller. So I'm really excited when I see that, and I'm just grateful because I know it's doing the work that it's meant to do. Be able to serve people along their own journey in finding their voice. I've got some great testimonials. Forbes Riley, who's a 2.5 billion industry leader in her own
Mm.
right, Shay Vaughn, who's got a Women on TV network. So really some great people. And then the people who have done testimonials in the book as well. You were reading one to me earlier.
Yes.
I was just, I'm grateful and blessed to have amazing people in my life and to be able to serve them in this space, to be able to help them in that whole journey of finding your voice and what it means to each one. Everybody's different. That's the thing. It's the voice blueprint that I created is just that, it's a blueprint. We come into this world with our own blueprints in life. So the voice blueprint is a voice print of how you're showing up and how we can help elevate your voice out into the world, whether in personal life or your business, and get you out there in a bigger and brighter way.
And I love that you mentioned that there's such a diverse way to approach that through courses and summits. And so for a summit, is that a place where people can go and kind of receive all that information, like a little place to get away and do all of that learning in one place?
Yeah, so our first one's going to be on March 3rd, so 3/3/23.
I love
So,
it. I
yeah,
love
that'll be a
that.
virtual summit. And yeah, it's just, as I said, there's courses that we are doing and a lot of greatness that's in there. If anybody's interested in connecting with me about that, please let me know. Also, I offer a 30-minute complimentary coaching consultation if they're interested in finding out more about the voice blueprint or speaking or having me in their work, their corporation. I love to speak to companies as well, because I know what that is like, not to be able to speak up and to speak out. And it's not always
Right.
easy because we don't want to say anything, that's wrong. We want to be accepted. you got to speak up. I mean, being a man, in management and leadership,
Mhm.
you've got to be the leader. If you're leading a pack, if you're leading a company, speak your truth. It's not always what you say, but it's how you say it.
And
That's
so
really
often,
important.
yes, and so often I feel like, especially when you're working in an office environment, there's that opportunity to sometimes share how you feel, but then it's also nerve-wracking, especially if you live or work in a big company, then you just feel like I can't say anything. And I know exactly what that's like being an former educator. And it reminds me back to what you said earlier about how there's just not enough time taken to really celebrate the people who are working there. And I love that you said that you did that, because I remember as an educator, there wasn't enough opportunity to share individual stories or say, unless you were at the top of the top, you really didn't get celebrated. And I feel like that's so important that you do that and that you go into companies and say, hey, I want to help those people who are me out there. Where's another Renee? Where's another Renee that I know I was, and help them feel like they are worthwhile, because I think that's so important that you're going back to where you were and saying, "Hey, I see you. I was once you."
Absolutely, Brianna. That is really where I'm just so passionate about and doing that,
Yeah.
because there's so many people out there in companies or corporations who need this. And that's why I created the course that I created in the blueprint. It's not a DIY. And I'm going to tell you that because if we could have DIY'd this thing called life, we would have done it. But it's
Yeah.
having somebody as an accountability partner. It's having people to come and speak to you, to understand you, and to know where you're at and how to elevate where you are in your job into, to become the person that you're meant to be, the leader, the manager, wherever you are, to step up the game, because that's where you're going to thrive personally and professionally. And I know people say, leave your personal life at home, but so often we carry it with us and we don't always show it because we're not allowed to. You don't want to show
Yeah.
everything that's happening behind the scenes when you're at work, but it does affect our performance at work.
Mhm.
And, you get these reviews like, how can you do better? How can you be better? But it's expressing your voice, helping you communicate better, communication skills with your teams. I always made sure that I did that. And it was, used to, yeah, and you mentioned something really important. It was the upper management that people were more celebrating when
Mhm.
they did well. You did this, you did. But again, I had to go back to my teams. I would have been nothing without them.
Right.
I coached them. I worked with them individually as a group to make sure they felt appreciated.
Mhm.
Because the more they felt appreciated, they would come to me and say, I got you this, I got you that, what they did for me in sales. I'm like, they would come to me and let me know what they did for me.
Mhm.
Really, it was elevating themselves, but they wanted me, they wanted me to know because they knew how much I appreciated them. And
Yeah.
so often those are the people that don't get it, but the ones that get you where you need to be. So I always made sure I let
Yeah.
them know that that was the biggest piece. That's the most important, is to let those people know, let your teams know, thank them, appreciate them,
Oh,
gift cards,
yes.
whatever I could do for them. I, wrote stories, I gave them cards, I did whatever I could do to let them know how important they were, how much value they truly had. So whenever we
Mhm.
had something we were supposed to do for the company, I went with them one-on-one. I found out what made them tick, what mattered most to them, not just as a team, but individually. And
Yes,
then
and
I
when
focused on that.
and when people focus on that, it really makes you even better. Like, I can specifically remember moments when people would say, those words of affirmations, and I know you have to know it's internally, but when they do that, I almost said to myself, like, oh, I need to do it more. I want to do it more. I want to be better. Because when somebody's noticing, it has such a different impact on your self-esteem and your self-worth. And I know that you have to feel that internally, but at the same time, you got to get there, you got to work through it. And I think that's so incredible to do that for other people, to say, hey, you are doing a good job, keep it up. Or, and also being specific. I've heard before that it's really important to be specific. Instead of saying, you are so smart, you would say, you are really great at identifying blank. Or, when you turned in that report the other day and presented it to the staff, you looked really awesome up there. You really presented it. You really knew your stuff so fantastically. Like being specific with the feedback, I think is really important
Exactly.
too.
Well, because then they know what it is that I liked about what they were doing, and then they're going to do more of it.
Absolutely. Because I think if they see that somebody is doing something well, then they're like, okay, well, I've got to do more of it. I've got to do more. And I love that you are doing such great work for all of these people out there. If you were to look into the future and think about where you want to be professionally or personally, what do you see in your future in the next 5 years, 10 years? What would you like to do more of, or what are you hoping to achieve in these next few years?
Well, I'd like to get the book into schools and universities, because I know, especially with our youth, how much this really would have helped me in my own journey, but I hadn't written the book yet, so to speak. I hadn't walked the path. So that, and even in companies, as I said, there's a lot of great exercises in here. I leave line pages for people to write their answers on, and to really go through that piece of it, because we're always evolving and growing. Think like the monarch butterfly, right? Butterfly goes into the chrysalis, the caterpillar, to the chrysalis, to the butterfly. We're always emerging and evolving. And so I would like to see that, get out there even more, to speak to more companies and corporations. I would love to be doing even more of that.
Yeah.
And just continue to grow and continue to evolve. The Finding Your Voice Network, I just keep it growing. So I'm just excited about all of it.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to do that in a group setting as well, because sometimes when you talk about your story, like you shared your story. And then, so if we're in a group and I look at what I've written and then I share mine, then other people say, oh, you wrote about that. I also wrote about that. And you kind of have these connections already made. So I can foresee a group of people kind of sitting in a circle and sharing what they wrote and their takeaways. I could really see that
Yes.
as an impactful thing. And is that how it kind of goes in the Facebook group, that you have those moments of sharing each other's stories?
So I've done a lot of interviews in the group. I did a lot of great thought leaders. It just continues to grow. And this is what the Finding Your Voice Network, it's a digital to print platform. So it's a magazine that we're bringing out into the world, and it's, all over the globe. So it's really
I
exciting to
love
be able to
it.
have that. And I've got people in there from Canada and UK and just all over. So I'm grateful for the thought leaders who have come in there and the expansion that it's having, the growth. And I just look forward to even more of it. For sponsorships, would love to have sponsors come in and advertise in there as well. Just a lot of those things. That's what I'm foreseeing happening for the Finding Your Voice Network. And then again, love speaking to companies and corporations about the growth that I've had. And yes, the younger version of me, the person that I was in corporate, and now coming out of that space and realizing how much more I could have, I wasn't at that place then, but what I could really do now to really serve them, to serve those people that are me then, and know how much value I can bring to them, because I know what it's like. I know what it feels like. And now being on the other side of it, using your voice, speaking your truth, being authentic, and raising and elevating people in that space.
Oh, so much goodness. And I feel like you've really, expressed so many different ways that you make such a great impact on the world and what you want to continue to do. And what do you think is your life motto or favorite quote, that when you're having one of those days where you're not really feeling as inspired or motivated, like what's the thing that gets you into gear to say, Renee, let's step it up a notch. We've got to get up. We've got to do this. What would you say is like your life motto or your favorite piece of advice that you've ever received?
Just to never give up,
Mm.
and to really believe in yourself. I recently wrote an article and I posted on my personal page on Facebook and LinkedIn. And it was about the real life that people show, the REEL versus their REAL.
Oh,
This is why when you
yes.
mentioned earlier about, why people feel like not good enough. Well, when you're looking at people's highlight reels,
Mm-hmm.
you're never going to feel like you're good enough. those four agreements is going to be out the window. It's like,
Yeah.
who am I to compete with this? How can I ever
Hmm.
do that? Look what they're doing. Look how much they're making. Look where I am. It's like the comparison instead of having compassion for yourself and accepting yourself where you are in your journey. Take some time off of social media, focus on what your goals are.
Hmm.
Yeah, social media is important for sure, but sometimes you got to take a breather and step away from it and focus on you,
Yeah.
because that's where you're going to have the most impact is on you, not reading somebody's highlight reel. And then you see it's another hour, and I was like, oh my gosh, where'd my day go? I still didn't do this, I still didn't do that. Now you're feeling worse about yourself. If you weren't feeling bad enough that
Yes.
you're competing with somebody else is highlight reel versus their
Mm.
REAL, then you're now feeling worse because you just wasted 2 hours on social media scrolling and reading about somebody else instead of
Oh.
focusing on what your goals are.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like I have been on social media for a very long time. I'll age myself and say, since 2007, when it, I think, first came out for just college students. And I remember seeing a statistic there's a social media documentary, and the name is escaping me at the moment. But in there, they say that the suicide rates went up 300% when social media first started coming out. And it's like when you look at the positive impact of social media and how it's grown entrepreneurs and how you keep in contact with so many different people. Like there are a ton of people that I would never have found or kept in contact with if it wasn't for that. But then there's also that mental health portion that if you digest social media in the way that you get jealous or you're feeling guilty about yourself, because sometimes you'll see things on there that make you go, oh, you know, Susie over there, she's a great mom. Look at all the wonderful things she's doing with her kids. When really that might have been the only great thing they did all month. And the whole rest of the month she was stressed and feeling like crap, like take that moment and say that's just a snippet. It's like the trailer, a small
Right.
snippet of their entire life. Don't take it to heart. It's okay.
You talk about taking it to heart. It's interesting that people have, heart attacks and strokes, and so what are they're so consumed with what they're reading. And
Hmm.
yes, I was speaking with somebody yesterday and they were talking about the suicide rate as well, because that's all you're doing is comparing yourself. You're never going to feel like you're enough.
Right.
And again, it's somebody's highlight reel and you're putting all that weight.
Hmm.
It's interesting. We try to eat healthy and exercise and all these great things, but your diet is also what you're digesting and ingesting on social
Yes.
media. What kind of diet are you on from social media? Are you taking in and absorbing all of these unhealthy kind of foods that into your mind? Because
Hmm.
what you feed yourself isn't just the physical food, it's the mental and emotional food that you're
Hmm.
bringing into your mind. And your mind and your body need to be, aligned. And if you're out of alignment, just like in a chiropractor, he like pops you back into place.
Yeah.
Try to pop yourself back into place by spending some more alone time and focusing on what you can to help grow what you're doing, not somebody else and what their highlight reel is in their life. So start
Right.
watching what you eat, take in on social media.
Hmm.
That is so important. There's great things out there, but there's also very harmful things. And if you're not in a space that's mentally and emotionally strong, and you're looking at all these other things and people that you think are at this great space, then
Hmm.
you're not digesting the best diet of food.
Right.
So
And
start
maybe
looking at what you're eating.
even take some inspiration from it. So if you were going to compare it to eating healthier, if you see something on social media that kind of makes you feel a certain way, then reframe it and say, okay, if I saw this person do this, can I replicate it in my own life? Do I even want that thing? Do I even need that? And take it as an inspiration to do something different. So if I see something about a mom that's doing something amazing, then I'll say, okay, can I replicate that? Do I need to do a craft with my kids right now? All right, let's go do a craft and actually reframe it into a positive manner.
Absolutely. You've got to flip the switch
Yeah.
and change it. What can you do differently? If you're not liking it, switch it around to
Yeah.
what can you do? You know, it's again
Hmm.
what we're feeding ourselves and what we're taking in, and don't spend the time on things that don't serve you.
Hmm.
Serving is like, again, I'm equating it to food because a lot of people are into health and nutrition. I always have been. And so
Yeah.
it's so important to also feed your mind the same kind of healthy foods you want to put in your body. You also want to feed your mind and your soul.
And you have so much goodness to share with all of your words. And I feel like there could one day be another book being written. Would you say that maybe in the future you have plans to, or even if you don't, if you did write another book, what do you think you would write about?
Oh, I've already come up with titles.
Oh, I
So
love it.
I do see more writing in my future to serve even more with finding your voice. I definitely feel there's more to be spoken. And it's, it's writing a book is really a great way to reach more people and to
Hmm.
share your voice as much as you can, as often as you can, because words are powerful.
Hmm.
Not just what you put on paper, but the words you speak to yourself. So absolutely, I definitely see more of that.
Oh, I love that. So we'll have to continue in keeping in contact so that we can figure out, okay, when is her next book coming out? So,
Absolutely.
yes. And so, what do you hope at the end of the day that people remember about you? So that if they said, Renee was blank, what would you hope that they remember about you and the messages that you share?
Just to inspire, impact, and empower.
Mm,
Those are three words that have stuck with me for a long time because I'm not saying a motivational speaker, I'm more of an inspirational speaker because
mm,
motivation wears off. You're motivated, you go to a big event, you're like, yeah, rah, 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 for
yeah.
a day, maybe 2 days, maybe 3 days. And then it fizzles out like a firecracker. It's like a big burst of that
Yeah.
energy. And then it just, like it spirals and it's gone. Right. But
Hmm.
inspiration is taking inspired action. You're inspired to do something. Like you were talking about a craft. Maybe you want to go do that. It's inspiring you to do something. So inspire.
Yes.
And then impact, to have great impact into people's lives where they're going to take that action and make a change, make the pivot. Just because you are where you are right now, it doesn't mean that's your life story and that's what's going to end. Those who are hearing this, make this the day, the first day. It doesn't have to be a new year or a new month,
Hmm.
a new minute. Every minute you have an opportunity to change, or because people expect you to be a certain way or do a certain thing, doesn't mean that's your life sentence. I have to do this because they expect that of me. What do
Right.
you want for your life? What is it you want to see in your life? And do that. Connect with me, reach out. I will help you. And
Yes.
empower, to feel empowered, to take the inspired action, to be impacted so you are empowered to make the change that you want to see in your life.
It makes me think of be the change that you wish to see in the world.
Absolutely. Mahatma
Yes.
Gandhi. Absolutely.
And I love that you said make this minute count because so often people will say, "Oh, well, I was going to start this new thing, but I'm supposed to start a morning routine, but now it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I can't really start it because it's not a Monday, or I'll start it next week." And it's like, no, make it right now,
Yeah.
do it right now. And I love that mentality because I have definitely been guilty of it where I'll say, well, I was going to do this. Like I used to have this really cool idea that someone gave me where you listen to a morning motivation song. And so I made a playlist. I had all the songs on it. And then I would say, oh crap, it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, I didn't play the song. And then one day I said, Brianna, you can play it right now. You can be motivated in the middle of the day. It doesn't have to be the morning time. And sometimes there's those absolutes that we think it has to be this way, or maybe that's just me, but
No, it's
you
not.
know,
It's not just you. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. It doesn't have to be a certain way. And we wait for, I'll do this when.
Hmm.
I'll start this when. How about now? Like, why
Yes.
is not now good? Why is not good
Right.
enough? Like, what's the holding you back? What's holding your voice back?
Yes.
What is it that's keeping you in the place you're at where you're afraid of fear of
Hmm.
judgment, fear of the limiting belief, whatever that is?
Yeah.
The only limits we have are those which we place upon ourselves.
And that's why I prefer it. I don't want to say I hate it. I prefer it when people don't say, I can't wait to do this, or I can't wait for the weekend. I can't wait for the end of the workday, or I can't wait until my birthday. And I'm like, please enjoy today. And it makes me think, have you ever seen the movie Click with Adam Sandler?
No, I love Adam Sandler. No.
Oh, so I was really inspired by that movie, and I always reference it when I'm talking about time because in the movie he has a remote control and he's able to pause certain parts of his life where he wants to, take in the moment, or he fast forwards through things that he doesn't enjoy. And so, spoiler alert, I might give away, no, I'm not going to give away the ending, but he fast forwards through like arguments with his wife or, bad
Mm.
parts in his job. And then suddenly, he's at the end of his life and he's fast forwarded through everything. And that right there was like oh, no, let's not fast forward through, the bad parts or the things we don't want to go to. Try to relish in every single moment and appreciate what you have because you don't want to get to the end of it and say, oh, why did I always say I can't wait for this or I can't wait for that? Enjoy the moment now.
Absolutely. It's part
Yeah.
of mindfulness, being present. And
Hmm.
the word present isn't present, it's a gift.
Yeah.
And so often we want to run from the things that we like, the mucky stages, like, "Ah, I just want to get out of this situation. I don't want to be here."
Yeah.
But you're there, and I've been there, and so we're human, right? We're having this human experience.
Yeah.
Um, things happen, and you're like, "Oh, I just hate this. Why is this happening?" But stop and go, "Why is this happening?"
Hmm.
And there's a lesson, and so often that gets repeated like again and again, whether it's in a relationship, like why do I attract those people, or why am I always finding myself in this situation, or why does that happen? Things don't happen to us, they happen for us. And I've been in the situation of like, okay, you said this happens for you, why is this happening, what is the
Right.
lesson here? But now I have the tools in my own tool belt because I've also created some of these tools to help
Hmm.
myself so I can help others too, to have them to pull from and to utilize to help, get in out of those situations and say, okay, what can I do? How can I
Hmm.
serve better? What can I do to help myself out of this situation or learn from this situation and
Right.
understand it? Have an understanding, not just get out of it. Like, why is it there? It's great to
Yeah.
get out of it, but why is it there to begin with? Just like we were talking about dis-ease, like dis-ease, why is that there? So when you
Hmm.
find out the why, the root cause, what's going on and why, then you can get to the next level of, okay, I get it. I get why that kept on happening because you were
Yeah.
never dealing with it. You kept running from it. You kept going to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And you were never dealing with it because you didn't want to deal with it, the muck. You just wanted to
Hmm.
go to the next thing and forget it. But yet it showed up at the next place you were at.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
where you were running away from. Oh, there it is again. You go, no. Why is
Oh,
it there? You've got to stop and understand. And that's why I do what I do today in helping people
yes.
through that.
Oh, it reminds me of a story, and I hate that I don't remember where I received it from or where I heard it, but it's about this old proverb or something where a man is going from town A to town B, and in the middle, he meets a man and he says, hey, how is town B up ahead? And he says, well, how was town A? And he's like, oh, it was crappy. It was terrible. The people were horrible. I hated it. And he said, oh, well, the town up ahead is just the same. So the guy continues on. And so then there's another man who comes up and he sees the same man and he says, hey, I'm traveling from town A to town B. How is it up there? And he says, well, how was town A? And he said, oh, it was fantastic. I met the most incredible people. It was a great place to be. And he says, well, town B up ahead is just the same. And it's all about your perspective. If you feel that whatever place that you're in is going to be bad, then it will be bad. So you have to
100,
reframe your thinking. Yeah.
Brianna, 100%. I do a
Yeah.
lot of my own quotes. If you follow on social media, on
Hmm.
Instagram, on LinkedIn, I just do a lot of my own quotes, and I was doing voiceovers for my quotes. And
Yeah.
one of them was your change your perspective and you change your perception. So it's
Hmm.
completely that your perspective
Yeah.
of where you are when you change that through your own filtered lens, because it's always through your own filtered lens of your experience, then you're going to change your perception of where you are.
Right. Yeah, it's so beautiful. So in all of your talking, I'd love to hear, do you have a special product or business offer you'd like to share for our listeners?
So absolutely, as I mentioned, I offer a 30-minute complimentary consultation. For those interested, go to reneereisch.com. And I can also drop my calendar link. If you have a place to do that, I can put that
Hmm.
there. My book, it's an easy peasy read. You're going to gain so much knowledge and value from it. And it's an evergreen tool to keep. I don't know, people, there's a Kindle, there's also an audio version of it. I can drop that as well. It's in my link tree. But the book itself, it's great to hear the voice. I'm grateful I did that. But the book itself, I believe in the power of the pen, and what comes up
Hmm.
will come out. So you can,
Yes.
this is really, I mean, it's a great tool to be able to have the takeaways and to look at your own life and to have the introspection of where you are and pick it up in a month or two and say how far you come.
Hmm.
That is a great tool to keep for those who actually like to have a physical product to be able to touch and feel it. So there's
Yeah.
the audio, there's the Kindle, there's the physical book. All of those are available, and to reach out and connect. So definitely I have the offer to have that 30-minute complimentary consultation with me. Let's share our voices together
Yes.
and see what's possible, because so much is.
Yes. And so your link again is Renee, ReneeReisch.com.
SCHS.com. Yeah.
Perfect.
And
Well,
yeah, I'll make sure you get the link tree as well. It's Linktree, www.linktree.com/Renee Reisch. And it's LINK TR.EE/Renee Reisch. And you'll see all my other links on there as well. It's also my Calendly link is there. So all of
perfect.
those things are available to reach out. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook.
I love it. It's great to be
Yes.
everywhere. So then you have an opportunity to share your message. And again, her book is called Finding Your Voice, Unlock Your Chains and Unleash Your Greatness. And this has been a fantastic interview. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share your story. And I love sharing your message. And I hope it impacts people as you've impacted me.
Brianna, I want to say thank you as well. And I am very grateful to you for inviting me on your show, and look forward
Yes.
to sharing our voices again real soon.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.